We're starting to hit the dead zone of the NBA offseason, where all of the excitement surrounding trades and free agency has died down a bit, the summer league is over, and there just isn't much else going on in the basketball world. Now that things have started to settle down, and the dust has cleared on the year, it's the perfect time to put out our positional rankings. Every year I update my player rankings twice, once midway through the season, and once in the offseason, because a lot tends to go down in those spans, and things can change quickly, so it's important to constantly update accordingly. In each of my next 5 videos, I will be listing out the top 10 players at every position, starting today with the point guards. Before we start though, it turns out a good amount of you watching aren't even subscribed to the channel, so if you enjoy the content, consider hitting the subscribe button, as not only does it help out a ton, but I also very much appreciate it. Now with that being said, let's begin. Before we get to the top 10, we'll start with a few honorable mentions that just missed the cut, and the players that land here are Darius Garland, Jrue Holiday, Tyrese Halliburton, and LaMelo Ball. The point guard position is probably the most stacked group in the entire NBA, with all-star caliber talent not even cracking the top 10. Darius Garland is probably the player that I struggled the most to leave out of the top 10, as he's a ridiculously efficient 3-level scorer and is a fantastic passer playing on one of the top teams in the Eastern Conference, but his subpar showing in the playoffs ultimately held him back. Jrue Holiday is always such a steady and reliable secondary star alongside Giannis Antetokounmpo in Milwaukee, and then LaMelo Ball and Tyrese Halliburton are two of the most promising young guys at the position. Now, starting off at number 10 and working our way up to the number 1 spot, we have De'Aaron Fox of the Sacramento Kings. Fox helped lead the Kings to their first playoff appearance in 17 years this season, as they finished as a top 3 seed in the West. Fox made his first All-Star team, he was the most clutch player in the league this year, dominating late in games when the score was close and hitting countless game winners, and he really just took his game to another level. He put up as tough of a fight against the Warriors as he possibly could have in the playoffs despite the team falling in 7 games, but he definitely did enough to land on the list today. Next, at number 9, we have James Harden of the Philadelphia 76ers. Harden's year was filled with some roaring highs and some disappointing lows, and now that he's somewhat stuck in limbo, awaiting his future, we have a lot to analyze. He led the league in assists this season and helped Joel Embiid take his game to another level, but the playoffs were once again a roller coaster ride with him. He had 2 unbelievable performances against the Boston Celtics in the second round, scoring 40+ points, but outside of those 2 games, he struggled mightily. His finishing around the basket was a struggle, his turnovers once again ramped up, and his defense was taken advantage of. He's once again fed up with where he's at and requested a trade, so if that gets granted, then he will be playing for his 4th team in a 3-year span, and as he's set to turn 34 years old before the new season begins, it's hard to imagine his best days not being behind him. Up next at number 8, we have Jalen Brunson of the New York Knicks. Brunson left Dallas, got out of the shadow of Luka Doncic, and immediately we got to see the full extent of his capabilities. The Knicks were a mess before he arrived, and after, he helped get them in the mix amongst the best teams in the Eastern Conference. Brunson was snubbed from the All-Star game this year, but then in the playoffs, he matched up with the Cavaliers, and he outplayed Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell, leading his Knicks team past them, and then he did everything he could against Miami in the second round, while a lot of his teammates were struggling alongside him. He flipped the narrative of his contract that he got paid in the span of 1 year, and now it looks like a total bargain. Next up at number 7, we have Jamal Murray of the Denver Nuggets. Murray is one of the toughest players to rank at the point guard position because the stark contrast between what he does in the regular season and what he does in the postseason is so rare. In the regular season, he really doesn't play like a top 10 guy at the position, but when the playoffs roll around, he becomes one of the best shot makers and playmakers in the league. He played a huge role alongside Nikola Jokic, helping the Nuggets win the NBA Finals this year, averaging 26 points and 7 assists throughout the postseason, showing he obviously has the talent to be an all-star. Up next at number 6, we have Trae Young of the Atlanta Hawks. Trae seems to be one of the most disrespected players at the position nowadays, with plenty of national media outlets and talking heads being very quick to disregard him and his production. Yes, there have been some issues between him and guys in the locker room, and yes, his defense is an issue, but Trae puts up numbers that very few are even capable of replicating, and you cannot simply just write that off. Trae's quote-unquote down year this season still saw him putting up 26 points and 10 assists per game on a playoff team, and at his best, he's one of the most lethal playmakers in the NBA. He just needs to be more efficient to reach his full potential. Next, at number 5, we have Ja Morant of the Memphis Grizzlies. Morant really needs to get it together off the court, but when he's on the court, he's one of the best point guards in the league, leading one of the fastest rising young teams. Morant is a 2-time All-Star and a member of the All-NBA team. He's led the Grizzlies to a second-place finish in the Western Conference in back-to-back years, and he has had some big playoff performances too. He does need to figure out how to be more effective when the game slows down to really perform at the highest level, but as it stands, he's a player who dominates in transition, puts constant pressure on opposing defenses off the dribble, and his athleticism is as explosive as anyone's. Up next at number 4, we have Damian Lillard of the Portland Trail Blazers. Lillard's time in Portland seems to be about to end, as he too is currently waiting in limbo after requesting a trade, but while that gets sorted out, he as a player is still one of the most productive at the position. His time in Portland is unfortunately ending on a sour note, but this last year was actually his most productive scoring-wise, where he put up a career-high 32 points per game. He's one of the best shooters in the whole league, with unlimited range, efficiently knocking down shots from beyond the arc with over 11 attempts from deep per game. He can heat up and take over a game at any moment, and all that's really missing is a ring for him right now in his career. Next up at number 3, we have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander of the Oklahoma City Thunder. SGA represents a next-gen star in the making, taking over quickly. He was the 4th leading scorer this past season, putting up about 31 points per game. He led the Thunder to the play-in tournament when most expected the team to finish at the bottom of the standings, and he really brings it on both ends of the floor, which can't be said about a lot of the other point guards on this list. The Thunder look poised for a big breakout season this upcoming year, and Shai has a chance to prove he can be a superstar in this league. Up next at number 2, we have Steph Curry of the Golden State Warriors. The top 2 on this list are in a tier of their own, above the rest, and honestly, it's tough to put one over the other, but as it currently stands in the year 2023, I think Curry barely gets edged out for the top spot. Curry is still obviously one of the best players in the entire NBA, he's the best shooter by a wide margin, he's a champion, and he's as proven as it gets. This is, however, a ranking of individuals, and right now, there is one individual point guard I believe is performing at a higher level than the rest. This brings us to number 1 overall, Luka Doncic of the Dallas Mavericks. Luka Doncic and the Dallas Mavericks had a pretty disastrous end to the season this year, but the team had a lot of deep-rooted issues across the board, and we're not going to act like Luka doesn't show up in a big way in the playoffs to try to disregard his production. Luka is a triple-double threat every night, averaging 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 8 assists per game this past season. He's shown countless times that he can single-handedly carry an offense, and with improved defensive players around him this year, and a full offseason to gel with Kyrie Irving, I think they're going to bounce back in a big way. And with that being said, that's all I have for you today. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and comment down below how you would rank the point guards right now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.